Hello everybody, welcome back to Read and Reread. I am Angelia and today it's time for Friday Reads on March, whatever it is. Let's see. It's the 7th. I thought it was the 6th, but actually it's the 7th. Okay. Hope you've been having a good week and a good reading week. I have had a good reading week. It started out with a really fun appearance on Monday Night Live, the show hosted by Greg of Another Bibliophile Reads and Alan of Big Hard Books and Classics. I will put the link to that show below. 2 hours went by so fast. We had the most fun conversation, the three of us and then all of the viewers. It was a good time, and thank you for everyone who was able to stop by and watch or that watched it later, and a good time was had by all. In other bookish news, we're sort of in the thick of prize season, and a couple of significant long lists have been released in the past couple of weeks that I have been taking a look at. And here's my thing with book prize lists. I don't try to read any of them in their entirety, and I don't try to keep up with the time frames of the long list and the short list, or try to read them before it goes to the short list and stuff like that. I just kind of mine these lists for great reading ideas. I love the prediction videos. I love the reaction videos. I even watch some of the announcement videos, the lives, and then I do look into all the books. I check my library to see what they have. I see if there's any that I want to purchase, and I eventually do read usually several books from each of these lists. So the most recent ones were the International Booker and then the Women's Prize list, and I have been investigating those lists. I did order one book that happens to be on each of those lists that I was already interested in, and then their appearance on the list sort of catapulted it up to a new level. So if you care to hazard a guess about what I ordered from the International Booker and from the Women's Prize list, you can guess in the comments, and I will reveal them when they get here. And the next time that I do a little, it'll be a very small haul if I do one, because I'm trying not to buy a whole lot right now, but I'll let you know what I got. But don't guess the Adichie book, because hard pass on that author. I don't have any room in my personal life or my reading life for somebody who has hostile and hateful viewpoints on the trans community, and I wish that the Women's Prize Committee also did not have room on their list for somebody with those attitudes. But I wish they'd use the spot for somebody else. There's too many good books in this world, and there's too many good people in this world to give time and energy to that kind of mindset. So, but guess somebody else. See who you think I bought a book by. I'm so excited for these books. And I think that the Carol Shields Prize came out too, and I haven't even had time to examine that one. So I'm going to take a look at that later today. In television viewing, we are still watching Severance, and the obsession just deepens. I have so many theories. We'll see what happens. Also, we kind of got a little burned out on Arrested Development, and so now we've switched over. In our comedy slot, we're watching Search Party, which stars Aniyah Shawkat, I think is her name, but who plays Maeve on Arrested Development, but she's a little older in this one. So she's a teenager in Arrested Development. This show, from when it was filmed, she's in her 20s. She beat her 30s now, and she actually did pop up in Severance. So there's just the whole universe going on here. And actually, watching the first few episodes, I saw somebody else from Severance on Search Party. Zach Cherry was there for just a minute, but I don't know. Oh, and I saw Parker Posey, and she's on White Lotus, which is the other show that we're watching right now. So I guess I'm in a certain corner of the TV universe. And so what have I been reading? So I finished the play I was reading last week, The Flick by Annie Baker. This is one of the 2 plays in this month's selections for my project Endless Drama that is on Discord. And I will put the link below again if you would like to join in. And we're reading 2 plays each month, except for June is one much longer play. But most months it's 2 plays. And I'll get to the second one in just a minute in this month. But Annie Baker's The Flick, which won the Pulitzer Prize in 2014, and it is a play. I talked a little bit about it last week. It's set in a movie theater, kind of a movie theater that is in danger of being closed down or sold out, and it's one of the last 35 millimeter theaters, and there are 3 employees that are the characters in this play, and it's all of their conversations when they are cleaning the theater and hanging out in between the showings of movies. And she gets so much character development squeezed into these brief conversations. It's really quite remarkable, the layers that she's able to create here between Avery, Sam, and Rose. And when I finished this play, I continued to think about these people and wondered what happened to them next. They were all at different kinds of points of change or crossroads, and including the place where they worked. And so what happened next? And just in that short amount of space and these short amount of pages, I became pretty attached to these characters and liked and disliked different aspects of their personalities. There was points where I felt very encouraged about them, and other points I was disappointed in them. She just created this whole very intimate little world in just these few scenes, and I would love to see this play staged. And I'm really enjoying the conversation we've been having about this and all the other plays in the Discord. So if any of this sounds interesting to you, come on down. We got room for more. The next book I read is also part of a group project. I've been reading books along with the global fiction project called Reading the Globe that is hosted by Roz of Scally Dandling About the Books, and Katja from Paige Turners with Katja on Katja's Discord. And it is We Do Not Part by Kang. This was a very powerful and potent novel. This is the first book I've read by Kang, but I've been meaning to read her work for a while. She came to my attention with The Vegetarian, which has kind of floated around on my list for a while and would almost get read, and then something would happen and didn't read it. And then she won the Nobel Prize for Fiction, and then this book came up in this project, so I decided that this is where I will start. This is her newest book. It just was released in the English translation, I think this month or maybe last month, and she wrote it a couple of years ago, I believe, but it just came out in the English translation. And the translators are Yaewon and Paige Aniyah Morris. It is absolutely a beautiful novel. Now, some people in the group have read more extensively with Kang, and a lot of them said they thought this was really strong, but not their favorite one. And that's kind of exciting because there was a mixed bag of recommendations about which other ones were their favorites, or which one would be the greatest one to read next. And I have made note of all of that. And I will read another book by her, not right away, but in the somewhat near future, I will pursue more of her books. But this one, I won't go too far into it because the discussion is ongoing, but it is, plot-wise on the surface, it is about a woman who is, when we first meet her, Kyung-ha, she is obviously in a bad place. She seems extremely depressed. She is living alone. She's barely making it through the day to go through the motions and eat and sometimes get out of the house. And she gets a call from a friend, a text really, that her friend is in the hospital, and she gets there and she's had this injury. Her friend lives on an island called Jeju Island, but she's in Seoul in the hospital, and she's very worried about her bird that needs food and water. And she asks her friend to go to the home. And so that doesn't sound too complicated, but it becomes very complicated because of a giant snowstorm that starts up. And there's a flight, and then she has to navigate across this island, and it just gets really, really harrowing. So there we have that plot. But it's really about generational trauma of the inhabitants of this island and the descendants of those inhabitants who were alive during the massacres and imprisonments shortly before the Korean War. So there was a series of events that occurred in the late 1940s that I didn't know anything about. Strangely, this was omitted from my history classes because there is a component of U.S. involvement in this story. So I had to stop and research several times the general history, but in the case of this novel, it becomes very personal, and that's all I'm going to say. But it's quite beautiful. It's quite intense. There's some really beautiful imagery and symbolism in here with the use of snow and the color white and a lot of other things that we're still talking about, and I'm probably going too far into it, so I'm going to stop. But We Do Not Part was really an interesting, challenging, and rewarding reading experience. The next one that I read was a very quick book that I enjoyed quite a lot, and also this is a buddy read, so I'm not going to say too much about it because we haven't discussed it completely. We've only kind of started. But it was a fast read, so I ended up finishing it. And that is The Tiger Rising by Kate DiCamillo. My friend Michael and I are doing a project where we are reading all of the works of Kate DiCamillo in publication order. She's a children's author that we both love from our past of working as children's librarians. And, well, we still love her now in the present. So this is her second novel. The first was Because of Winn-Dixie. And this one is about a young boy named Rob who's recently moved to a small town in Florida with his father. He's grieving the death of his mother. He's on the outs at school. He's being kind of mercilessly targeted by some bullies on the bus and in class. And he's also been afflicted with a really bad rash. It sounds like eczema. He's got an itchy rash that is quite visible, and the kids are making fun of him. And he's just kind of miserable. And two things happen kind of simultaneously. He discovers a tiger in a cage out in the woods behind this motel where he lives, where his father has a job. And he makes a new friend who's another new girl at school named Sistine. So that's the setup, and I'm not going to talk about the rest of it because we haven't gotten very far. But I really enjoyed it. I really love this project, and I'm excited because I know which book comes next, and it's one of my favorites. So we'll get to it when we get to it. But The Tiger Rising. And then here's what I'm in the midst of. I'm still reading Barchester Towers, still loving it. I'm about 2/3 of the way, I think, and I really am appreciating the pacing of this and my pacing reading it. I'm not in any rush. I am going to get to my mammoth whenever I finish this. My only goal is to at least start the mammoth before the month runs out. But I think I'm on pretty good pace to read this for another week or 10 days, probably. I'm not going to go back over what it's about again because I've been talking about it for a couple of weeks. But here's my little Barchester Towers thought of the week is this book has a lot of characters in it, and I like the way that Trollope introduces and incorporates each new character or family that he adds to the novel. I was thinking about his contemporary Charles Dickens, who is also really infamous for having just a million characters. And I find with Dickens it's kind of hard. A lot of new characters come in right at the beginning and throughout the novel, and it's really hard to sort out who is important, who you have to keep track of, who is just flitting through the scene, and who's going to be significant. And there's really no clue. You have to pay really close attention to everyone because you don't know who's important. With Trollope, he has a different kind of style, at least in this novel, and I feel like he did it in another longer novel that I read too, but I can't quite remember. But he actually takes time. He begins new characters at the beginning of a chapter, and he lets you know. He'll say, okay, now we're going to talk about the Stanhope family. And he just kind of slows down the plot and he describes the members of the family. So it's like he takes his characters and he winds them up, and then he lets them go into the story, and they begin to interact with the other characters that we already know. And these interesting juxtapositions emerge. And he also really excels at conversations. There are some absolutely the most savory conversations in this novel. Arguments and power struggles, they're just so good. And he writes women characters really well also. So I'm just loving all those things about Barchester Towers. The other one that I started reading last night is our second play for this month's Endless Drama Selections, and that is Indecent by Paula Vogel. That was published in 2017. Paula Vogel, in this play, she's written a play about a play. It's about the play God of Vengeance, which was written in 1907. Sholem Asch wrote the original play, and it was at first performed in Yiddish and German. And then when it came to the U.S. and was produced in English, all of a sudden a bunch of controversy broke out. It's a play about two women who fall in love. This play traces the history of that play. Let me just read one of the blurbs on the back. This was from Newsday when it first came out. A moving and fascinating play. Has there ever been anything quite like Indecent? A play that touches, I mean deeply touches, to much rich emotion about history and the theater, anti-Semitism, homophobia, censorship, world wars, red baiting, and oh yes, joyful human passion, an extraordinary play. So I haven't even gotten to all that yet. I'm halfway through, and we haven't talked about it much either. So once again, I reserve my final comments until later. All of these plays are making me curious to read other plays by these playwrights that I'm experiencing for the first time. So I want to read other things by Annie Baker. I want to read other things by Paula Vogel, etc., etc. I'm still continuing with the poetry selections in You Are Here, Poetry in the Natural World, which is edited by Ada Limon. And there are a few in here that I have just really loved. I love when a poem sneaks up and clobbers you, and you just marvel at the timing. Like something in that poem is perfectly suited to where you are on that day or that time in your life in general. And that's happened a couple of times in this book. So once I get to the end, I will have to make a second pass and flag my favorite poems that will add to my little internal collection of poems that I return to again and again. So this is really, I do recommend this collection. There's some real jewels in here. All right, I think that's it. I know that I'll finish reading Indecent today, and I will continue with Barchester Towers. And I don't know exactly what I'm picking up next, because I have several good books, and some of them are for challenges and events, and there's another buddy read in the pile. So I got to check on the timing of when different things might need to begin to pick my next read. But what are you reading for this weekend? I hope you have something wonderful in the works or lined up and waiting for you. Are you planning to read some books from these recently released book award lists? What do you think? Let me know what's going on, and I will be back. I think I'm going to do an extra video on Sunday this week. I have a lot of tags and other ideas kind of piled up, so I think I'm going to throw in an extra one. So I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.